Well, good morning. We just got in from a fire drill, so it's been a busy morning, but we are ready to start. And today our topic is going to be on visual supports. We're going to be talking about ways to create custom visual supports for your students that will support communication, um, behavior, and task performance. So let's go ahead and open up a few slides first. And then, whoops, I forgot to share my screen, which will be important if I'm going to use my slides. And here we go. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking about our visual supports, creating visual supports for communication and routine. And we use visual supports quite a lot in Tomball School District. Here's a couple of housekeeping rules. If you can just mute your microphone, and then if you want to ask a question, go ahead and unmute, or you can type in the chat box, whatever works for you. And if you have questions or ideas for additional training, please let me know those as well, and I'll be happy to work with um, whoever is needed to get that done so that they are available for you. So back to our our visual supports. We have visual supports that support all different kinds of things in our classrooms and in our homes. They can support communication or the making of choices. They can provide information that supports independent performance in an activity, like the sequence of hand washing or the sequence of toileting or a morning routine. They can help with transitions for students who need to have a start and an end point so that they can anticipate what's going to be coming up through their day. It can help with task completion so that, again, our students will understand what it is that they need to get done and be able to work towards some reinforcement or just complete an activity with less intervention from an adult or a caregiver. So basically, the overriding function of all of these visual supports is communication and independence. So, how they're going to be used and what they're developed for really determines what they're going to look like and what kinds of materials you can use. You can use something as simple as a calendar. For us, or many of us, for me, I will speak for myself, it's really important for me to use a planner. I do a lot of different kinds of things for a lot of different agencies, and I need to have it all spelled out onto a planner, which is a visual support. So that's written on my calendar. Um, Sometimes these things are posted on walls in the restroom for the student to be independent, or even in their dining area, their eating area, to help them remember the steps of remembering sometimes even to chew their food enough. Some of our kids eat so fast that we have to give them really structured procedures for how they're able to eat so that they don't choke. The sequence to a day might be posted on a wall, or it might be in a notebook, or it could be on a lap tray, or any number of things. Behavioral and goal tracking is usually going to be something small and portable because the student's going to be carrying it around with them, and you don't want to have too many things to carry in your day. And then communication, that is just as diverse as you can imagine, are the ways of communicating and what it is that the student is trying to communicate. But some other considerations come into play as to what it will look like. um, some students will use objects as their visual support, so they may not generalize to a picture or a line drawing where you might have an icon. So you've got to use the actual objects, an actual cup, an actual eating utensil, an actual toy, um, uh, things like that. Maybe even miniatures that you might get, like for a dollhouse or something, so that they will understand what it is that is and be able to communicate with that. Some people use photographs to indicate people or favorite things that are very customized. Some kids can relate to the picture symbols, such as the board maker symbols or the SimStick symbols that you'll see on many of the things that your teachers provide for you. Of course, those are all proprietary, and those take licenses and special software to be able to make those. But we're going to look at ways to do that without using any proprietary things. And then you can, for your literate students, use text. Just like we use text in our planners, they can use text as well. And so, that also gives them the opportunity to um, have that text usage reinforced. So, text is a good choice sometimes for making those visual supports. So today we're going to talk about some places that we can get things and create things that will be free and that will be things that we can use and customize so that they are available for us. But we're also going to look at some things that are pre-made and some resources for that so that you can see what other people have already done and maybe incorporate that into what you want to do, or um, use those actual materials that somebody else has already done through their own efforts. But some sources of images that you might be able to use are camera images. So taking pictures with your phone or your camera and using those. A lot of people do that with family pictures, or maybe a special blanket, or some kind of special something that your student really likes or wants to communicate about. You can use Google Images or the other repositories of images to come up with some things sometimes. Sometimes even you can just use labels and box tops. So, if you're talking about foods, for example, a good source of images and things for that are just using a label, an actual label of that cereal or snack or whatever it is. And those you can even just put in a wallet or something so that if they're out in the community, they can just use those um, naturally occurring labels to be able to request what it is that they want, or locate what it is that they want. Remnants are that's referring to things like napkin from a favorite restaurant or a movie ticket or something maybe that you've done with your child that they might want to come to school and talk about. And you can just take a remnant of that trip, maybe in a bracelet. You know how they give you those little bracelets that show that you've paid your entry fee, or things like that, that might be something to evoke a conversation with your child, is sometimes very nice. And then you can even do something as simple as just making a basic line drawing on a sticky note and use that for a quick and easy solution. So there's a lot of things that you can do. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful thing in the world. Sometimes in an emergency, pulling out a sticky note and just making a little picture choice, or some kind of communication tool will really make a big difference for your student. We do need to consider the context. A lot of kids have communication devices that maybe are computerized or tablets, and dedicated devices that are very expensive. And so sometimes that is not really the best choice depending on the environment that you're going to be in. So some of the things that we think about when we're thinking about what kind of visual supports that we want to make for our student or have for our student is, are they in one classroom? Do they travel around the building? Are they in a variety of different settings? Because something that's appropriate in one setting might not be as appropriate in another setting. And we need to make sure that we can close the gap for their communication or whatever it is that we're using that visual support for. Using alternative strategies if we need to, but we need to make sure that they're also consistent enough that the child doesn't have to learn a variety of different things that are totally different one from the other. We need to think about if they're using them at home or in the community or at school, in buildings, or riding a horse at hippotherapy, or going to the beach. Those different contexts all would require something very different. And You may be able to pare down language to suit that particular activity and provide a lower tech alternative for that or a visual support for that. Um, you just have to really know the context that you're going to be going into so that you can make sure that the student has the language that they need to have, but also in a usable format, because you're not going to be carrying a computer down into the beach and getting sand in the electronics, for example. You're going to choose a different way, but you don't want to ever remove the child's ability to communicate, because we all, as we move through our environments, are free to communicate freely without the use of tools. So we have that luxury, but our kids can't just have their voice in one situation and then not have a voice in another situation. So we want to make sure that we are considering the context in that. Another thing that we need to consider is the caregivers. So who's supporting the student? If they need support on their tool, the person who's supporting them also needs to understand the tool. And so we spend a significant amount of time making ourselves available to the people who are going to be interacting with the student using their visual supports. And some examples, it may even be a sibling that we need to train, or you need to train if you already are familiar with the process for your child. And that gives them the opportunity to interact with others, not just one communication partner. So we want to make sure that others understand how it is that they communicate, or that they're able to perform, so that the student who's the visual supports are for gets the best opportunity to perform independently as much as they can. One of the other considerations is whether the child's able to carry the support on their own, or how they will actually transfer or transport the support. So a child in a wheelchair sometimes can have some bigger things because they're attached to the wheelchair and they don't have to carry them. But a child who's using a walker maybe needs to have something different while they're walking through the hall than what they are actually using in a classroom that's going to give them access to full language. So here we go. We're getting ready to go into the images. Let me stop here for a second and see if anybody has any questions at this point. So let me check. Okay, I'm not seeing anything show up on the chat, so we're going to just keep going. You can see on the screen here is a daily schedule, and these empty boxes that are showing up here, these would be things that the child is required to do in the daytime. And then as they complete those tasks, they can move them over to the all done side of the chart. So the nice thing about some of these things is just being able to check off and identify that you have done the things that you need to do. These daily schedules will sometimes be just for a period of time, like just for the morning or just for the afternoon at school. But however it is that you choose to do it, the daily schedule can provide you with some things that are the visual support for your child to be able to know, this is what I have to do during whatever period of time it is, and this means that it's done. Sometimes providing the child some flexibility in the sequence of what they have to do releases some of that behavior so that they don't react negatively to different things. So let's say they had, here's these 5 blocks. Let's say they have 5 things that they needed to do at some point throughout the day. But the sequence of them was not necessarily important. Then you could just have those 5 things, or the one thing or the 2 things there that the student needed to do. And then as they completed it, whenever it was, they could move it into the all done section. And again, that helps them organize what they need to do, but it also is a behavioral support, or can be a behavioral support for students who maybe don't like being told what sequence that they need to do things in. This is a visual schedule that kind of outlines a student's day. So you can see here in the morning, their routine this is at school, school routine. So they come in, they have breakfast, and they go to their a work table, and then there's some recess and circle time and lunch. You can see the afternoon is a little bit uh, uh, different from that. And these particular pictures, oops, sorry, these particular pictures are not movable. They could be movable so that you could rearrange things if you needed to. But on this particular image, this is the typical routine for the child to follow so that they can anticipate what's going on in their day and when it's going to be time to go home or when it's going to be time for their favorite story time or music or recess or circle or whatever it is. It comes in handy for that student, again, to anticipate their day. You can also make those icons so that they are removable and can be rearranged, and maybe even to anticipate a special event if your child is looking forward to or is anxious about a particular event, so that you could prime them for that event or show that that event is going to happen as a positive kind of thing. Um, it can support both kids who are looking forward to something, who are constantly, oh, I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this, and then also that student who is anxious about something, to let them know that this is going to happen, but the rest of your day is going to be routine, and we can go on from there. This one is another one that is kind of a all done, or here's the sequence of your schedule for the day kind of thing. And you can see this is for secondary students. So they have history, English, math, and they could actually put their assignments up on this part of their folder and then move the card down when it's completed so that they show that their task is complete. Here's another one that is text-based. Like I said, sometimes we choose to use text to support the students depending on their level of literacy. And here, whoops, you could see that that one is things to do, everything I have to do, and then it's all done. So next we're going to do the work task, and when we're all done the work task, we're going to move it into the all done section. Then I get a break, yay, and then we're going to go to the community and lunch, etc., etc. And here's one that's completely text-based, and this is more like a check-off list so that the student can tick off the things that they've completed by checking in the box. And again, some of us really like to be able to check those things off that we're all done. And some students that appeals to well. So that's an easy thing to do. You can do that on, just a Word document or a Google Doc or anything, and be able to do that. If you want to do that digitally, you can also do that in Google Sheets. So we'll look at some of that in a minute. So where are some sources of ideas? Some things are already made. There's a lot of kids out there that are using visual supports, and there's a lot of schools and families that are supporting them and using the visual supports. So there's lots of resources with ideas and printables and templates that are pre-made, as I mentioned earlier, that are really very good, and you may find that they are suitable for what your particular student needs. So, if you, before you get into making a whole lot of things, unless you just really enjoy doing that, you can look at things like these websites that I'm going to show you. Of course, Pinterest is kind of a common one that everybody seems to know about, and but I'm going to show you this Living Well with Autism. So let me switch my screen and go to the Living Well with Autism, and let me make sure that my screen is still being shared properly. Yes, good. Okay, so in Living Well with Autism on this website, you can find a variety of free resources that are already made, and then also some ideas and tips and hints about different things that they have made. So if you check the online resources, there's different centers. If you look, how to use social stories, how to use the picture cards and things like that. There's a lot of tips here on this website. And again, you need to use your due diligence and work with your staff, but this is a pretty good, reliable website. Another one that has a lot of neat ideas and activities also is this one. It's called And Next Comes L. And this parent is the parent of a child with autism who is hyperlexic. So a lot of what they do there supports that print, that access to print, but it also has a lot of visual supports. And she comes up with good games, good activities to kind of reinforce concepts. Has picture supports for performing different tasks. During COVID time, she's had some nice resources up there for those kinds of things as well. My Google Sheets templates are in this folder here. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is a public folder that I have created to help parents be able to create their own materials. And you'll see here, I have a 3x3 template. And this is just, again, in Google Sheets. And all you have to do then is, once this is up, you need to make a copy of it. But you can just do an insert image and put it in the cell. And then you can tell it where you want to get your image from. So whether it's your camera or Google image search, let's do that. And I'm just going to type in Houston Astros, just because it's baseball season. And we're going to pick that one. And then we're going to insert it. And it will go into the box. And you can see here it's a little bit off to the left side. So we're going to go to the justification here and put it in the middle. And then it's right in the middle of my box. So the student could communicate something about the Houston Astros. Maybe, we will put some favorite players or the bases or, whatever it is, so that the student could talk about a baseball game that they're watching or whatever. So that's just with the 3x3 template. And you can see we have a variety of sizes of templates here. We have the 2020 calendar. So if there's something that you wanted to do with a calendar, this is kind of neat, because one of the areas that students really struggle with sometimes is transportation. So knowing how they're going to come to school, who's going to get them, if they're going to have a substitute teacher, how are they going to get home, all those different kinds of challenges can really be difficult for the student. And having it on a calendar so that they can see what's going to happen each day releases a lot of that anxiety many times. So whether they have autism or they don't have anything, but just really are concerned about trying to figure out their routine, you can go ahead and do the same thing. So you just click on the cell that you wanted to put. We're going to do insert, and we're going to do an image in the cell. And we're going to choose another one. Let's do a Google image search, and we're going to do, how about car clip art there. I like that, clip art. So it'll be something simple. And so that your child's a car rider, so we can put a car in there and put that. And so on Wednesday, they know they're going to be a car rider. And on Thursday, we're going to do the same thing because they're going to be a bus rider. So let's do this. And we're going to put in a Google image search, bus, school bus, clip art. And then we can put that school bus in there. So whatever bus you happen to like, you can insert, and there we go in my spot. So that, again, is a really nice way to help the student be able to kind of let go of any anxiety that they have about what's going to happen any given day. Some people even have found that if a teacher is going to be absent or they're going to have a a substitute para or somebody different working with them that day, that putting that in their calendar is really useful. But another way you can use it is for things like chores. So if your child has to take the trash out every Tuesday, you can put something in there to indicate that they need to do that on Tuesday. And hopefully they will learn that they have to do that independently, and you won't need to go behind them and remind them of things that they need to be doing. So I'm going to let those pictures stay there for now. And we're going to look at the daily schedule. So the daily schedules that we looked at earlier on the slide, the AM, PM template. Again, you can put fixed pictures in there if your routine is very standard, or you can create pictures of that size and cut one out, print it out, cut it out, and make it as an icon. And you'll be able to have access to those daily schedules. The next one is the to do and done. So this one is the one where you would make them movable. So we would leave these, print this out as blanks, but we could also fill in these to have the right size picture. We could fill in the boxes with pictures and then cut those out and have them laminated or whatever, and move them to the done file. The next one I have is first and then. A lot of times for behavior management, our students need to know that first they need to do this and then they get their reinforcer or reward. So printing out this chart is a good idea and a way that you can do that. And again, you would have the picture images that you could use, maybe even the 3x3 template or the 5x5 template, and make a lot of pictures of things that first they need to do this and then they need to do that, and just put a piece of Velcro in the middle and the child can move those around back and forth and be able to have that done. You can see on the next one that I'm showing, this is a communication board. So this is for breakfast, and this is a I want and I don't want. And then the student, can indicate whatever it is that they want or don't want for breakfast. So you can see they like fruit and different things for breakfast. And you could put whatever is the student's favorite things on there. Some people even have made placemats where they put the images around the edge of the placemat, and the student can just point to that as they are eating, and even put descriptor words like yum or ick or whatever, so that the student can communicate more about what it is that they're eating. You can see here we have the daily schedule with the things to do and done, and then here's the one that's text-based. And again, you can type things in on these little slides and then print out a copy of that and then laminate those text phrases there so that they can be moved across to the finished place. And then the last one that I have here is the I'm working for. So a lot of our students benefit from using the visual reinforcer of however long you can have them work. They get a reinforcer for each task, and then they get their reward, whatever that is. So this is a I'm working for chart, and there's 3 of them so that you can make multiples, but then here's the little stars that you can also print off and then laminate and put a piece of Velcro on the back of it and be able to work with that. So the quickie things for lamination, I typically print on cardstock just because it's more durable, but you can laminate easily by using a page cover, these little page sleeves. That's a nice quick way to laminate something. The other thing that works really well is clear packing tape. So you can make your icons and then cover them with packing tape on both sides and either snip around where it's sealed or just cut around the paper itself and make those icons, and they'll hold up for a while. The more durable ones are on cardstock for sure. Another thing that I've done for kids who tend to crumple a lot is I've bought pieces of whiteboard at Lowe's and cut that into small squares so that they don't crumble. And so that would be another thing that you could do. You could also use those for your drawing type visual supports. So there's a variety of ways you can use those visual supports. As you can see, there's a variety of ways to make them. And if you have an idea or you want additional support, you can check those websites out that I gave you, or you can contact me directly. Um, I am here in the school district. We want to make sure that we're using those visual supports, even if the child speaks. The visual supports help release a lot of the stress and anxiety that comes from um, challenges with executive functioning, with memory, and being able to um, organize things and put them in a sequence, and then also just with the anxiety of different tasks that are difficult for a child. So use those visual supports even if the child can speak and even if they understand the words that you're saying. There's my contact information, Eileen Garza at tomballISD.net, and my phone number, and I will be happy to support you in any way that I can. Just let me know how that is, and I will look forward to doing that. So take care, and thank you again for your time.